The poll bugle has been sounded, and in these elections, one of the issues which has taken center stage is Citizenship Amendment Act, the notification for which was issued on 11th of March. The opposition has called it dangerous and draconian. The BJP says it supports citizenship on humanitarian grounds. There are also a batch of petitions which will be taken up by the Apex Court on 19th, challenging CAA. We have India's top legal eagle, Harish Salve, joining us to answer all these questions on its legal validity. Mr. Salve, pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time here on NDTV. My first question, there is little doubt that India's partition on religious lines did throw up several challenges and citizenship for refugees in one of them, which the Citizenship Amendment Act intends to address. Despite several assurances, the Nehru-Liaquat Pact and subsequent demands from every political party, including the Congress and Communists, there has been strong resistance to the law. My question to you, sir, is CAA compliant with constitutional morality?
Yeah, it is compliant with the Constitution and with legality and constitutional morality. But I want to start by addressing a very interesting expression you used. You said they call it draconian. As lawyers, at least, we normally use the word draconian on something which imposes on a citizen's liberty. So if the government gives one gas cylinder free in 3 months, and somebody says you should give one gas cylinder every month, or if government gives only to a part of India and somebody says give it to the whole of India, the decision to give one gas cylinder in 3 months or to a part of India, you will not call it draconian. You will say, this is not enough. You must do equally for all. So this word draconian, I think, comes out of a bag of expressions without understanding the connotation. In constitutional law, draconian is a provision of, for example, a law which says you will not get bail unless proved innocent. Prima facie. Now that's what we call draconian because that imposes on a citizen's liberty. Anyway, let's talk of first constitutional morality and then talk of constitutional legality. The Home Minister has explained the context of the law. The context of the law is there was an Indian subcontinent prior to 1947. Afghanistan was very much a part of it. Pakistan was very much a part of it. India was very much a part of it. What is now Bangladesh was very much a part of it. And this was liberal. Of course, there were principalities, there were this, but never really was there a problem. We know in India has always been liberal. My wife comes from Afghanistan. She grew up as a little girl in 60s and 70s, and Afghanistan, she says it was a very liberal society where their understanding was first the family, then the community, and then the religion. Now things changed. Things changed in Pakistan, which has declared itself an Islamic state. Things have changed in Bangladesh, which calls itself an Islamic state, an Islamic republic. And Afghanistan, we all know the misfortune of Afghanistan under the Taliban. In a situation like this, if India says, and the Home Minister has given figures, of how the non-Islamic population in these countries has dropped dramatically. So if India says, all right, people who are of Indian ethnicity, and when I say India, I mean the Indian subcontinent ethnicity, the Zoroastrians, Parsis as we call them, Sikhs, Christians, Hindus, they will get fast-track citizenship in the sense if they come in and they have some proof, and a large number of them are already in India, come in as refugees, because they are not entitled to practice their own religion, be it Hinduism, be it Zoroastrianism, be it Sikhism, freely in these Islamic states, because by definition, a theocratic state has a state religion and other religions are not encouraged. In fact, they are positively discouraged. So if we say we will give them fast-track citizenship, and we will fit them into Indian society, I don't see where the constitutional morality gets offended by this.
And let's take it little ahead, Mr. Salve. And one of the charges leveled against CAA is that it is discriminatory. that it prioritizes non-Muslims over other religions, namely Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Parsis and Jains. And there are some who argue that Rohingyas, Ahmadiyyas and even Shias have faced discrimination and hence they should also be welcomed. What is your opinion on it?
So let me answer the discrimination point, which is the second point which you raised, constitutional legality. Constitutional legality is discrimination under the Constitution doesn't mean everybody has to be given the same. Correct? We pay different rates of tax depending on income. That's not discrimination. The people below a particular income level are given so many things which are not given to others. We should be, today, an ideal welfare state. Look at the Nordic states. Finest education is free, all healthcare is free. Won't India want to do that? Of course, someday we want to do that. But today, you have to be below a particular income level you give it because it's a question of resources. What the argument of discrimination is that if you differentiate between people, this is what we constitutional lawyers call overclassification. That is, there are people of the same class who are being left out of a benefit being given, then you call it discrimination. For this, it becomes very necessary to define a class. The principle is, if you make a differentiation, differential treatment, that must have a nexus with the object to be achieved. What is the class? The class is minorities in Islamic states, the three neighboring Islamic states. That's the class. What is the object to be achieved? That minorities in an Islamic state are by definition of theocratic states, treated differently from majorities, from the state religion. So that's the class, and the object sought to be achieved is, these are minorities of Indian ethnicity who are discriminated against by definition, and therefore we fit them in. So the object sought to be achieved is to fit in the minorities of these three neighboring states. And the class is minorities of these three. It subserves the object. So it's perfectly constitutionally permissible in my point of view. Now let's deal with the Rohingya or the Ahmadiyya argument.
Yes.
Yes, it is possible that even within a theocratic state, in the state religion, people are treated differently. But can you deny the fact that in a state religion, there is a state religion and there is a religion which is not encouraged by the state, in fact, which is discouraged by the state. These are the classification. We are not fixing the problems of the Islamic faith. We would be stepping out of line if we were to do that. How would somebody, like if Pakistan said, certain communities in Hindus are not properly treated in India, we will give them free citizenship and we will give them money. We'll say, don't poke your nose in our affairs. Islam is a religion. And if Islam is not being properly administered, it is for the Islamic people of Islamic faith to fix that. Is India going to sit? Are we playing America? We are getting into Pakistan and saying, we know you're an Islamic state, but you know what? You're not truly Islamic because you treat certain parts of Islam differently from other parts of Islam. Is that our place? Is it our place to say that? So I don't understand this argument. The Rohingya is a completely different problem. The Rohingyas are Bangladeshis who were imported into Burma. Most of our problems are created by the old British colonial Raj. The British colonial Raj got these poor Bangladeshis to work in Burma. Burma says, go back to Bangladesh. That's a territorial problem between two of them. They happen to be Muslims because they are Bangladeshis. Should we open our border to all? I wish God had endowed us with the resources to wipe every tear from every eye. But Article 14 doesn't say, unless you can wipe every tear from every eye, don't wipe any tears at all.
Mr. Salve, let's look at some more arguments which have been put forth by those who are opposing it.
Sure.
They are saying that this is arbitrary in how the provisions of the law which have been framed. Those who are opposing, they say that why just include Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh and exclude Myanmar, for example, which also shares border with India. And if we were to pick countries arbitrarily, then why not include Sri Lanka too?
there's nothing arbitrary. It's a question of how much you can afford to give. First of all, Sri Lanka is not a theocratic republic, at least till this morning. And Myanmar is not a theocratic republic, at least till this morning, or this evening for you in India. So I don't know what we are talking about. We are talking of discrimination in a theocratic republic, treating the religions differently. Are we saying there are no other problems? Let's extend the logic further. The African tribes, certain African tribes are treated so badly in Congo, in Ethiopia. We should open it to them also. What about the people from Syria who are being slaughtered? What about people from Gaza? Why not open it up to all Palestinians to come and stay freely in India? I wish we could. I wish we could wipe the tear from every eye. But we can't. But that doesn't mean, therefore, that if we have 3 neighboring countries which have turned theocratic, and because they've turned theocratic, there is a large ethnic Indian population there, which are minorities, we fit them in. How does that become discriminatory? All you're saying is we should do more. And if we have the resources, we could do more. That's a matter of state policy.
And how does this act work? Because it's not applicable to the tribal areas of Assam, Mizoram, Meghalaya or Tripura. Because as is included in the 6th schedule of the constitution and the area covered under the inner line notified under the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation 1873.
I don't understand how this...
I mean, could you explain why is it so, sir? Because there is the argument around that as well.
First of all, at least till this morning, and I have heard this being aired, states are saying, we will not acknowledge this law, we will not work this law. How will this law work in a tribal area? What does this law say? You will be a citizen of India and you will be subject to the same restriction as a citizen of India. Correct? You will apply to the Home Ministry on a portal. You will be called for an interview. You give an interview. If you are able to establish that you fit within the class which is to be benefited, you will get Indian citizenship. And you will be like any other Indian citizen. I heard Kerala saying we will not implement this law. What are they going to say? Sorry, we are going to check your passport. If your passport came under the CAA, you're not an Indian. Can states say that? I don't know where this argument is coming from. You'll be an Indian citizen, right? Whereas the question of tribal area, non-tribal area, this area, that area, you're not getting any special benefits.
No? Like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, a number of them are saying that they will not be implementing.
They have no role to play. I'm sorry, citizenship is a union subject. It is not for implementation in the states. There's going to be an online portal. On the online portal, you fill in. And if the union government wants to set up offices in a state to implement a union law, no state can say, I will not allow this. Can tomorrow a state say, I will not allow Enforcement Directorate to enter my state. I will not allow CBI to enter my state. I will not allow CRPF to enter my state. Can you say that in a federation like India? It's the most dangerous. This is a dangerous argument.
Okay, there are opposition parties like the Trinamool Congress, which is alleging that CAA is a precursor to NRC. And just like the Supreme Court appointed committee excluded 13 lakh Bengalis during the NRC exercise in Assam, similar fate could be met by others.
Now, look, I am not an astrologer, nor am I a political pundit. So if the CAA, if CAA is a precursor to a NRC, if somebody sees it that way, it's a political argument. I don't want to get into it. There is a CAA and there is a NRC. And the two operate in 2 separate fields. The legality of one doesn't impinge on or support the legality of the other. So as a lawyer, I have no answer to this. If somebody says your motive is you're ultimately going somewhere, that's a political argument. The political class will deal with it.
Mr. Salve, the United States has expressed concerns about the notification and they have said that they are monitoring the implementation of this act. The United Nations has called the legislation fundamentally discriminatory in nature. Of course, the Indian government has responded by calling their concerns misplaced and misinformed. But how do you look at this concern being expressed at all?
Straight away. I think the Americans should right now worry about their support to Israel and what's happening to the Palestinians. The Americans should worry about the race issues in America. And the Americans should worry about the fact that on the one hand, they are hunting Donald Trump. And the other hand, he's likely to become president of America. Right now, America should have enough of its own. Why is it worried about what's going on in India? We are a democracy. We change governments by ballot. And everything is going well. Last time, if you go by what Donald Trump said, they didn't change the government by ballot. So I think America needs to worry about itself. As far as Pakistan is concerned, if they call it discriminatory, I say, shame on you. I say, shame on you for the reason, are you acknowledging that Ahmadiyas are treated badly and they should also be included in the CAA in India? What is Pakistan saying? That why aren't you allowing Muslims from my country to become your citizens? If that's the argument, I say, Pakistan, shame on you.
Mr. Salve, in 72 hours, Supreme Court will hear petitions challenging CAA. 237 petitions in all. It will be taken up on 19th of March. When there are existing laws and provisions to provide citizenship, the question that is asked is why CAA at all?
That's a rhetoric, and the political rhetoric will answer that. The CAA addresses a specific problem. I do not know of any law which says preferential fast-track citizenship to this class of people. So that's the short answer. I have only one thing to say. If there are 237 petitions and the poor Supreme Court judges have to hear 237 lawyers, my heart reaches out to them.
And questioning it on the point that it is violative of Article 14 of the Constitution?
Yeah, of course they will. I don't say my view is the right view. I say this is my view.
That's why I'm asking you, Mr. Salve, because you'll be able to help us understand whether it will stand the test of legal scrutiny.
According to me, it should. And I think I'm right. But I have the intellectual honesty to admit. So I may be wrong. I never thump the table and say I'm right. I'm not a politician, I'm a lawyer.
Yes,
that's I have won cases, I have lost cases. I have won cases which I was not very sure I'd win, and I have lost cases which I was very sure I would win. So, we know law. These are intellectual issues. I have expressed my view. I very strongly feel this law is constitutional, but I'm not a Supreme Court judge, and I'm not going to be hearing the case.
Okay, so let's elaborate a little bit more on that, since you're talking about the constitutional law and how it doesn't really violate. It will stand the test of legal scrutiny. Mr. Salve, how does it actually work then for all those who are opposing it, saying that it is against the Muslims of India? Or is this more of a misinformation campaign? So
let's just hear what you just said. It's against the Muslims of India. That Muslims of Pakistan and Afghanistan are not being given open citizenship into India is against the Muslims of India is a logic I have not understood. It may be against the interest of some people who want to encourage this, and let's not get into the politics of that. But how giving free citizenship to Ahmadiyas, which is the main argument on discrimination, or Shias, would benefit the Muslims of India as an argument, I fail to understand. So, if to me, the argument in cold logic doesn't get off the ground.
So, would you say that all these concerns that are being expressed by, be it United States or Human Rights Watch Group, of concerns of religious freedom in India, which comes up every now and then?
Tell me, will America give open citizenship rights to Ahmadiyas of Pakistan? And if it is not going to do so, will it give open citizenship rights to the poor Palestinians who are being mercilessly slaughtered? If it is not, then I say America, shut out.
Mr. Salve, would you say that this is a law whose time has come, particularly at the juncture at which India is standing?
There's no right time and there's no wrong time. We had to do it. It should have been done earlier. Maybe it should have been done 25 years earlier. It would not have been this controversial. Today, politics is a lot more sharply divided. So it's this. I mean, if it had been done 25 years ago and 30 years ago, and if the Congress had done it, you would have had no runs. Let's be clear about that.
Is it
Of course, they will say we would never have done it. But there are earlier debates where people said we should be doing something like this.
And so it is being done.
Yeah, so it's being done. It's being done.
So constitutional morality test it passes, constitutional legality test it passes. Where is the concern then? As the top legal voice of the country.
Concern is what was announced. Maria, concern is what was announced yesterday. What's going to happen in April and May? You raise issues. I mean, this is the joy of Indian politics and Indian elections. You have all sorts of issues. Things heat up, not necessarily logical, more rhetorical. But that's true for any part of the world. Elections always create a time for a boil of ideas. So that's the main concern.
My last question to you.
I am reasonably certain after June this will be a non-issue.
Okay, so you're saying by June it will be a non-issue. After 4th of June when the elections are over?
It might come back to life when certain states go to the polls. But
okay. Sir, you haven't answered what question that I had asked, and I'm going to go back to it. Why CAA when there are existing laws and provisions to provide citizenship?
Because those laws have a very different protocol and a very different rigor under which citizenship is granted. It is here you have said from those on whom we are granted, and our citizenship is open to any and everybody, but it's on certain protocols. There are guidelines how we grant citizenship. This is granted on a basis. And the basis is A, you're a citizen of one of these countries, and B, you belong to a community, which is the minority community in those countries. These are the two tests. If you satisfy, you get citizenship, unless you're established to be a security threat or something like that. So it's a much simplified version of giving citizenship. Doesn't every country have it? Doesn't the US have different rules on which they give green cards and US citizenship? Britain has separate rules, and there are 5 or 6 different categories in which you are given visas. So every country has different norms and different rules on which they give citizenship.
Mr. Salve, your final thought?
My final thought is that it's a good measure. It's at this time, no idea will go unchallenged in the next 2 months. And I'm very proud of India because, I'll just close with one thought since you're talking about Pakistan and their concerns. I believe, not exact words, Bhutto wrote that he used to, Pilu Modi, the famous Indian politician, he wrote that Bhutto was his friend from England where they were studying. And he said, Bhutto wrote to him once, he said, I used to always scoff the noise and dust of Indian democracy. But when I lie in this dark, quiet cell in Pakistan, I now realize the value of the noise and dust of democracy.
What better way to end this conversation, Mr. Salve? Pleasure speaking to you, sir. Thank you for your time and breaking down this entire idea called CAA and its implementation. That's all from me. Thanks so much for watching.